Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Grow with G. I am so happy to be recording this. I am just at such a good spot in my life right now. I am just really appreciating a lot of things, and a lot of good things are happening to me. I just spent last weekend in Sydney with some of my best friends, and it was such a beautiful weekend. We went to some really nice restaurants. The weather was incredible, so we were at the beach. We even had like spontaneous dance parties, and it was just such a good time. It was just so good for my soul. It was a really good weekend, and oh my gosh, if you listened to my last episode on Stop Waiting for Motivation, I talked about how I was going to the dentist, and I was really excited to show him that I have been flossing twice a day, every day, and they told me that some of the damage on my teeth has been reversed from all of the flossing. So this is your reminder, or this is evidence that flossing, there's actually a reason behind it. Shocking. And if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. Basically, it's all about stop waiting for motivation, because when are you motivated to brush your teeth? Like, you're not. You just do it because you know you have to. So it's an episode about super practical tips on how to do the things you want to do despite not having motivation for them. So it's one of my favorite episodes so far. I just think it's really useful. It's really helped me in my life, so I really hope that it helps some of you. Let me know if you listened to it, if you liked it, if it's helped you, or if you have anything to add on that topic. But today, I really want to talk about spirituality and manifesting, and mostly spirituality, but it sort of goes hand in hand with manifesting. And manifesting was requested by one of my listeners when I asked you what you wanted me to talk about. So I'm going to weave it into today's discussion, but today's discussion, that is so formal. This podcast is not that formal. This episode, I want to come back to it later more in depth, because I want this to be more about getting started with spirituality, because it goes hand in hand with manifestation. And I never really considered myself a spiritual person until probably very recently. So before you turn this off because you're not into spirituality, I really think I can offer a practical and approachable way to this. And like the fact that I have become spiritual, or like I'm on my spiritual journey from going from such a place of like not really believing in it, I really hope that it's easy for you to understand. And it's just like, I have to share this with you because I am seeing the results, and it's crazy. Like, it's so cool what I've been bringing into my existence, literally just by getting in touch with my spiritual side. So that's what I want to talk about today, just because I'm just seeing so much evidence for it that like it has to be real. And I wanted to correct in one of my previous episodes, I think it was, I'm not sure which one it was, but I was talking about Oprah's book, which was called Building the Life That You Want, and I talked about how spirituality is one of the pillars of happiness that Oprah describes. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to that one first. But as a bit of a follow-up, I wanted to correct, I don't think I articulated what spirituality really was, because I just didn't really have a clear definition of it going in, because I think it's a very personal definition, and I think it means something different to everyone. But I've been thinking about it more lately, and I think that my definition of spirituality is the belief in something greater beyond me. And I would say until very recently, that's just been the universe for me. So I love to talk about how the universe is always looking out for us. Like, because I'm seeing how she looks after me. Because if you know me, I have some of the most crazy travel stories. There are so many times that I actually should have died. And I didn't, because the universe protects me. And I've literally had 3 near death experiences, like literally where I've accepted death. But and then other times that I just look back on now and I'm like, how did I survive that? And it's all because the universe was looking out for me and she knew I had more to do here. And she's really protected me, even that she's put me in situations which do not feel great at the time, but were absolutely necessary. If you know me, I broke my leg last year, and that was a massive catalyst for change. So that was the universe doing her thing. So I definitely have believed in that. And recently I've been learning more about Tibetan Buddhism, and I'm seeing the benefits of meditating every day. And I've also been more interested in like, what is God? And obviously, if I follow the Buddhism path, that's Buddha. But I'm also just learning a little bit more about other religions and what God means. Because maybe, just maybe, God can exist outside of those religions. And yeah, I'll get into that a bit later in the episode. But I'm really open-minded right now, because I've been hearing of people who aren't religious like myself, but who believe in God. And I'm like, how does that work? Like, what? I thought he was connected to, or he or she was connected to a religion. Like, what do you mean? So we'll get into that at the end. But getting in touch with spirituality. So my spiritual journey, it started almost without me planning to, which again is just like more proof that it exists. Basically, one of my friends, Bella, she shared this playlist she listened to in the morning, and I will link my own version of it in the show notes. And this was recordings of a person called Esther Hicks, and she is so in touch with her spiritual energy. She calls that energy Abraham Hicks, and Abraham speaks through her to deliver messages from wherever you want. Like, she calls it source energy. You could think of that as the universe, you could think of that as God. Or even if you're listening to me and you're like, that is absolute rubbish, disregard the whole Abraham part. And even if it's just Esther, she has the most motivational speeches. And I started listening to these speeches, they're called rampages, in a very low point of my life and worst point of this year for sure. It was like peak Melbourne winter. I was adjusting to a new job. I had just come home from a really fun holiday, and a lot was going on for me personally, and I was feeling really sad and low. It was right before I really started the podcast as well, and wow, this playlist has changed my life. Like, it is all about, you know, your feelings are a guidance system. They're not just things we try to suppress or deal with. Like, they actually have wisdom in it. And Esther Abraham talks about listening to those emotions and then tuning yourself to better emotions, to better feeling thoughts. And when you have better feeling thoughts, by law of attraction, which is that like attracts like, you get better experiences in your life. And the reason behind it is that we live in a vibrational universe. And I've seen so many videos on YouTube that just shows like how we live in a vibrational universe. Like that is a fact. And then when you apply it with this law of attraction, if you're vibrating on a high frequency, you get other things on a high frequency. But if you're on a low frequency, you get more of that energy. And just stay with me, I promise it will all make sense. But basically, like, I can break it down as simple as this. When you're having a good day, you notice how many good things happen to you. And when you're having a bad day, you notice all of the bad things, right? That is law of attraction. You're feeling bad, you attract bad things. You're feeling good, you attract good things. And I am seeing this firsthand play out. So I have so many examples, but basically I've started journaling every morning, and I have been writing down the thoughts that I want to think, that I want to attract more of. And I do it for every area of my life. One of the areas is health, and I have not been sick since I started. And some of you might be like, oh, well, could be so many other reasons behind it. Like last year, I was constantly sick. I was getting every single cold, every single flu. I had COVID a few times. I was always run down. I was so worried about my health. I was so worried about sick people near me. And now, since I have been listening to Abraham and been practicing the thoughts that I want to believe, I have not gotten sick in about 5 months, which is massive for me. And there were people at work who sit next to me who had COVID. I didn't get COVID. I saw people who had that super cold in Melbourne, didn't get it. Somebody was next to me in a hot yoga class, hacking their guts up, and I couldn't move because it's too awkward to move once you've picked your mat, and I did not get sick. And this is a game changer for me. And if you're still not convinced on that, I have another crazy story. Is right before I was flying to Sydney, the night before my flight got cancelled, and I was on the phone. No one was helping me. No one could book me on an earlier flight, and a later flight really didn't suit me because I was only going for a weekend, and I was frustrated, and I just couldn't get rebooked on a better flight. And they were going to offer me a refund or a credit, and I just didn't really want that. And then I have a couple of phone calls, trying a couple of people, no one can help. And then when I decide to shift how I'm feeling and reach for a better feeling thought, being like, okay, well, no one can help me when I'm frustrated. So I was like, I'm going to feel good. Despite how annoying the situation is, I'm going into this next phone call with a good energy. I'm expecting to receive help. And I've got a good feeling. I'm feeling good. And I got rebooked at the exact same time I was meant to leave, when that flight on that time was supposedly cancelled. I don't know how else to explain that, but this law of attraction. And even today, I couldn't find a car park for ages. It was super annoying. It was super frustrating. And the moment I decided, no, I can feel good despite not having what I want right now. And then it came into existence. Then a car park opened up. And I'm just really seeing the evidence of setting yourself to a higher vibration so you can be in the receiving mode of the things you want. So that's the evidence. And I could go on for days with all of the examples in my life. But hopefully that's enough of a range for you. But yeah, I'm really just starting to practice all of these things from Abraham. So the playlist in the mornings is definitely has definitely been the most helpful thing. And then there are a couple audiobooks that I've listened to as well. I can link those for you. And some of the, like, there's a lot of overlapping concepts across all of it, which I love. And some of the biggest things in it is that when things happen in our life that are negative, we are experiencing contrast. So we're realizing what we don't want. And a lot of the time, we continue to focus on what we don't want instead of focusing on what we do want and then attracting from that place. Because when you stay stuck complaining about what is, you do not allow the vibrational frequency to receive that which you do want. So now I've really started to practice being like, okay, this thing happened. I realized that I don't want that. What do I want? Focus on that. And that is how you manifest all of the things that you want. Oh my gosh, even yesterday, I had a Friendsgiving picnic and it was meant to thunderstorm the whole day. And the day before and the morning of, I was just like, I'm feeling good about this weather. It's going to be perfect weather. It will not rain. It's better not to say like it will not rain, because then you're focusing on not raining. But if you focus on like clear skies, like good weather, on the good feeling thoughts, and I was really leaning into that. And the weather was perfect for the whole picnic. So just another example of it all going to plan. So it's about getting now that you know what you don't want, you can get clear on what you do want. And that's really liberating to realize why everything's happening, and your negative emotions about something is just guiding you to positive ones, because you realize you can use the wisdom from that emotion to know you don't want something and turn it into what you do want. And like, I'm doing that with friends right now. Like, when things happen with friends, instead of getting angry at a friend, instead of trying to control my friends to be somebody who they're not, I'm focusing on the qualities that I do want. And then more friends who embody those qualities are showing up for me, and the ones with the other qualities are falling away. And I am saving so much time and energy because I'm not trying to change people. I'm just letting the law of attraction bring me the right kind of people. So it's so liberating just to be like, oh well, like, I know the best will come for me anyway, and I'm not going to force everyone to be something that they're not. And the other thing that I love doing is, you have the power anytime to choose how you feel. And I think a lot of the time we think our feelings or responses are automatic, and yes, they definitely can be, but also right now, like, you can choose how you want to feel. And it's so cool to know that this power is always within us. Like, the next time you are walking down the street, you can just choose to be happy. Like, that is so cool. Like, who would have thought? It's been within us this whole time, and we've been searching for all these external things when literally you can just choose to feel feelings of happiness. It's been really fun to do that more, because normally I think we're waiting around for it. But anyway, that's also what I love about that, from Abraham Hicks. And then, as I was saying at the start of the episode, I've also been trying to figure out what God is. And it's a big one. But I have been reading this book called Conversations with God. It's a similar sort of idea as the Esther and Abraham Hicks, in that there was this guy who started writing like a letter to God, and then God started talking back through the letter. And again, even if you're like, absolutely don't believe in that, the way they speak is just so eloquent that to me it really felt like it was a message from a higher something. And even if you're like, I don't believe it was God, even the person who wrote this just comes up with the most profound ideas. And when I find that these ideas overlap with the other things that I've been learning in other areas, like through Abraham, I start to get more conviction in it, because I'm like, there's repetition here. And anyway, this book, it talks a lot about all different kinds of religions, and I think it's very inclusive. It doesn't try to say one is better than the other, and I really like that. And they do reference all different types of religions. So if you're curious about religions like I am and God, I definitely recommend reading this book, because you can believe in God without being religious, which is what I'm starting my journey on. And it was really interesting. So it debunked a lot of myths about religions, and as somebody who didn't grow up with one specific religion like pushed on me, it was really interesting to learn. And I liked just some of the broader ideas that they talk about. So even like kind of unrelated to God, but they talk about how humans are either motivated by love or fear, and that love is the highest thought you can have. So the book was about like cultivating more love, and how God is loving. God isn't punishing in this book. And I just really loved that distinguishment. I don't know if that's a word. How love and fear were distinguished, because now when I am going about my day-to-day and I'm making a decision, and then I think to myself, I'm like, am I being motivated by fear or love? If it's fear, I reassess it. And if it's love, I know that I'm following my highest truth. So I learned some other concepts other than just, what is God? So I do recommend the read. It was really interesting. But basically their premise was that God is the great unseen. God is neither male or female. It just exists. It's everywhere. We are gods because we exist. We have God in us. It's really interesting. And just debunks a lot of myths in other religions. And I really liked that. And it also talked about how life is not a process of discovery, it's a process of creation. And that just links exactly back to Abraham Hicks, because they talk about how our thoughts create our reality. And that is also in Buddhism, because, that is the law of karma. I don't know if they call it laws in Buddhism. Anyway, it's karma. And I think karma is really interesting too, because we all love to talk about someone getting bad karma, but we don't talk about good karma, like planting good seeds for the future and people showing love so they receive love back, like a boomerang, they call it. I love that idea. And I think it's cool to think about positive karma instead of the negative. I'm definitely trying to practice that more, show more love, and I'm definitely feeling it back too. So the fact that all of these sorts of spiritual information that I'm finding out, like no matter what the source, I am seeing repetitions through all of them, which just really makes me believe in it more. And I don't know, talking about spirituality even, I just saw this quote from Ram Dass, and I want to read more of his things because I think they'll be amazing. But he talks about how our feelings are communications from the universe. And I love that, because I think we always know if something feels right or wrong. And usually we rationalize ourselves out of them. We say, oh, society thinks I shouldn't do that. Society thinks I shouldn't feel like this. But we know deep down, like, our feelings are our guidance system. So, like, we need to get back in touch with the wisdom in our emotions instead of shutting them down. I really want to do a whole episode on that. But for the meanwhile, I really love that. And in Conversations with God, they also talk about how feelings are God's method of communication, because words get misinterpreted, misunderstood, but feelings, like, that's such a core, I don't know, it's just within us, right? Like, there's way less room for that misunderstanding. So I know this episode was a bit controversial, and congrats if you've gotten through the full 25 minutes of me rambling on about spirituality or religions and God. But I honestly just felt like I couldn't not share with you what I've been manifesting, because my life is just, it is changing, and I want to change your life too. Like, my biggest mission with this podcast is literally just to help you with all the things that have been helping me, no matter how crazy some of it sounds. And even if I help one person with one piece of content that I put out there, like, that's my job done. But yeah, I really am trying to grow the podcast so that I can help more than one person. So if you're enjoying it, please share it to your stories. Please leave me a review. You can't do word reviews, but you can do like stars. If you follow my podcast, that's super helpful. I've also got social pages on Instagram and TikTok. I really love posting on those, actually. But yeah, really, really, really trying to grow this. But also, thank you so much for being here and for listening anyway. That is more than enough. So if that's all you're doing, no stress. And I love you so much. Thank you so, so much for listening. I hope you have a great night, great day, wherever you are. You are special, you are loved, you are safe. I'm sending you love, abundance, happiness, peace, safety, joy. Okay, I could go on forever. All right, I love you guys. Bye.